Oh boy, a Kerry King solo album.
I'm so excited! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Yeah!
Why are you screaming? It's 8 in the morning!
Kerry King is back! Slayer is back! Why wouldn't I be screaming? Finally, some real metal! Let's drink some beer!
What part of 8 in the morning was unclear to you? Who are you? How'd you get in here?
Oh, I'm Thrashin' Jackson, and if it ain't thrash, it's going in the trash. I go wherever the riffs take me. Nice to see you're finally reviewing some real metal, not some stupid, boring underground crap or some goofy metalcore or deathcore. Instead, you're talking about From Hell I Rise, the debut solo album from legendary Slayer guitarist Kerry King, which is no doubt cram-packed with the most evil and insane riffs ever made in the history of mankind. And if you disagree, it's because you're a gay, liberal, pussy poser who can't handle brutal music and should stick to Taylor Swift.
So here's the thing.
Slayer!
So if you're anything like Thrashin' Jackson over here, then there's a very good chance you're going to love From Hell I Rise, featuring Mark Osqueda from Death Angel, Phil Demmel from Machine Head and Violence, Kyle Sanders from Hell Yeah, Paul Bostaph, who has worked with everyone from Testament to Exodus to Queensryche to Forbidden, and also the aforementioned Slayer, and also featuring Kerry King, also from Slayer, duh, of course. From Hell I Rise is essentially Repentless 2.0. And those aren't my words, they're Kerry King's. He's gone on record several times now saying that this is, musically speaking, a continuation of that album. This is also an album he's been working on and hyping up ever since Slayer's final tour back in 2019. And while I hardly expected some high-concept rock opera or a wildly progressive and inventive opus from a 60-year-old man with a reputation for writing music one way and only one way, I was maybe hoping for something with just a little bit more spark and spice and oomph and firepower.
Wait a minute! Are you saying that you didn't love this absolute masterpiece of mind-blowing metal menace and madness?
Yeah, I guess I am. So what?
What the fuck is wrong with you? Kids today don't know anything about metal. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. Why don't you go listen to your nerd metal?
Hold on, a few minutes ago you were happy to see me reviewing this album.
That was before I knew you would dare to disrespect a metal legend and American hero like Kerry King. I'm so mad, I'm gonna drink another beer!
Yeah, go for it, bud. Drown your sorrows. I don't really fucking give a shit. The bottom line is, for me, this album was thoroughly predictable and boring. There's frankly nothing on this album I didn't see coming, nothing I found genuinely exciting, nothing that other thrash metal bands haven't already done better, including Slayer. Now, to its credit, the album does have good energy and momentum. Mark Osqueda is genuinely pretty ferocious on vocals, channeling an anger that very intentionally brings to mind Tom Araya in his prime. There are also plenty of manic, all-over-the-place, Slayer-esque guitar solos and blistering beats, and the production is beefy and mean, but also crisp and clean. But, to be blunt, Kerry King isn't a very good songwriter. He never has been. It's not a coincidence that Slayer's best albums were penned with and often primarily by Jeff Hanneman, whereas Slayer's worst albums were penned by a mostly isolated Kerry King. And thrash metal, more so than any other genre of metal, needs great, sharp, dynamic, varied riffage, and there's just none of that whatsoever here. It's the same flat, generic, ham-handed chugs that made Repentless such a bore back in 2015. Tracks like Crucifixation, Idle Hands, Tension, and Rage are one-dimensional, uninspired, completely forgettable. Occasionally you'll get some groovier riffs and some different tempos and cuts like Trophies of the Tyrant or Residue. Occasionally you'll also get some subtle punky bursts in something like Two Fists. But it's just not enough to break up the constant feeling of monotony. Every track feels like a shadow of the reheated leftovers of Slayer, rather than a continuation of its once fiery display of hellish metal. Lyrically too, so much of this album is just incredibly juvenile and dumb, to the point of being cringeworthy and accidentally funny. Like, I can't help but roll my eyes when I hear lines like "Hatred is my ammunition," when I see song titles like "Everything I Hate About You," and I can't help but laugh when Mark is forced to scream out on behalf of Kerry, "I'm in mental retrograde." In an episode of the Banger Films docuseries Metal Evolution, Kerry King reflects on the Slayer's style of songcraft and how it compares to that of Metallica, saying, and I quote directly, "If I'm in a corner, I like my corner. It's the coolest corner I've ever been in." Years later, it's clear that he still loves that corner, as that's exactly where he remains, stubbornly standing on From Hell I Rise. Kerry, by his own admission, is completely uninterested in even the slightest bit of musical growth and development. And it's resulted here in not necessarily horrible music, but certainly forgettable, mediocre, sleep-inducing music. 2 out of 5, if it weren't for the contributions of others here on this album, I think the score would be just a tad lower.
You should be ashamed of yourself, pussy poser. You just can't handle the sheer brutality of this album. You don't know anything about thrash metal or any metal. You're a nerd, a poser, a bitch, and a gay liberal millennial.
And you're a figment of my imagination. You're not real. I'm asleep right now. This is a dream.
That's a lie!
Is it? Because I did literally just say the album was sleep-inducing.
You're bluffing!
Am I?
No! Slayer!
Must have fallen asleep while listening to the new Kerry King album. Time to go film the review.